Okay, next up, we have Stephen Leong, producer at Volta, a keyword studio. He fortunately got subbed by Kahui, who runs Keyword Studios, Keywords International in Singapore, which is a localization studio. But they have acquired quite a few companies, and Volta is one of them. And yeah, even though Stephen's title is a producer, but he has extensive experience in art in all aspects of game dev. So I will leave it to Stephen to take it away.
Hey guys, good morning everybody. I think I want to thank Gwen and Cheryl for inviting me. And even though I was subbed by Kahui, I still had to agree to take part. Well, so let's get down to it. I don't have a lot of time, but I do want to share quite a few things with you guys. I know many of you might be developers or more on the engineering and the programming side, but we also want to talk about the art side of things and how art plays an integral role in any game. You know, that first sell, that first hook is always that visual. So we want to talk about the opportunities for artists and the ways to get into the industry. But before that, just a quick intro about myself. I'm actually a developer by training. So I started out back in advertising, running websites, doing XML in the early days. And I got bored of that and I moved on. Yeah, and I moved on to something even worse. I went to do financial programming for insurance and stuff. So not a great jump off point. Between that, I dabbled working for a wine distributor. I tried to be a musician. And for those of you who have been in the art industry in Singapore for a while, I was the studio manager at Imaginary Friend Studio for a couple of years before going solo and running my own outsourcing business. So that's how I got into Volta. That was my introduction into concept art, being a remote producer running art for Volta. At that point of time, I was based in Singapore, but I did have the opportunity to also join their team in Quebec City in Canada. And I'm now back in Singapore. Oh, sorry, where was I? Okay. So a little bit more about Volta. What's Volta? Volta is a art studio. We're a concept art studio that we work primarily with pre-production, but we also do marketing art. We're headquartered in Quebec City, Canada. We've been around since 2006, and we've worked on a myriad of projects, everything from mobile games to film and TV to AAA to board games, and we've done advertising work as well. We started, my CEO, Claude Baudelot, started the company out of his back room in his house. And they initially worked on school textbooks, illustrations for textbooks. You know, the kind of stuff we see in our school books now? Yeah, that kind of stuff. But since then, we've expanded the team and we're close to 50 altogether now, encompassing both 2D and 3D artists. And unlike a lot of studios, I think Volta's unique talent, one of Volta's unique points is that we have artists from all over the world. We have artists from Brazil, Romania, Russia, Bulgaria, the US, Lithuania, Singapore. So we have my one DigiPen graduate who is now based in Canada, in Quebec City. And we have a few of our local Southeast Asian artists also contributing to services for us. So back in 2013, we were, sorry, wait, let me look at my notes. Right, here you go. A little bit more about Keyword Studio. Keyword Studio was founded in 1998 as a localization service provider. So that's where Kahui managed to get me into this and sabo me. But yeah, back then in 2013, there were basically about 200 people and just the one service line. Today, we're over 8,000 staff members all around the world, and we encompass 7 service lines, of which Volta is part of the art service line. The art service line encompasses everything from pre-prod to in-game to marketing to VFX to cinematics, and we provide end-to-end solutions. So that's just the intro. So okay, let's get into the meat of things. How I got into the industry, I started primarily as an outsourcing manager. back in the days, like late 2005, 2006, 2007, the hot places for art were going to the DeviantArt, going to CG Hub and CG Society and those places to look for artists. But fast forward to 2020, now we have so many options as outsourcing managers to look for artists. We've got ArtStation, we've got personal websites, which are so easy to throw up in like an hour or two with all those Wix and Squarespace and things like that. And there's a social media boom that has benefited this outsourcing industry primarily because it's so easy for me to go out and find artists. But that being said, right, the business of art isn't just about art. It's also very, very much about people. And it's about connecting the two. And that's where my role comes in. I want to connect good projects with good people and to make sure that, that the visual goals, the integrity of the art director's vision or the game designer's vision is carried out. And that takes a lot of collaboration, and it's sometimes one of the most challenging parts about it. So for you guys who are starting out in the industry, and you're looking for an entry point, I think you guys are, as artists, have the best solutions and the best opportunities right now, because as artists, you can practically work in almost every environment. There are certain skill sets that are wanted in different parts of the environment, regardless of whether it's AAA, whether it's mobile, whether it's board gaming. Creativity and art skills are always going to be in demand. So what are your entry points into coming into the industry? Do you go out and look for a studio to join? Do you become a full-time freelancer, or do you, work off commissions on Twitter? And all of these options are perfectly fine if you're starting out. It's basically, part of it is in your own comfort zones as well. You have to find a position and place where you feel happy about creating art. But more about that later. One important aspect of coming into art is the ability to be able to self-promote and how to build your own brand and your own presence. And like I mentioned earlier, with the boom of social media, that's gotten easier. And it's gotten a lot more intelligent, where it's not just, hey, do you have a job for me? Now it's like, hey, I worked on this, go to my website, go to my Twitter page, follow me on Instagram. So that part about building your brand, we'll talk a bit more about later. And yeah, before we move on, I think one thing that has been said on almost every panel and every talk that's been conducted on this industry day is the magic word of portfolio. How you use your portfolio and how you gather your portfolio information and make yourself relevant to the industry. But we can talk about that a bit later. Let me move on. Don't have a lot of time. Okay. So for my role as an outsourcing manager, I want to give you guys some tips about how do you put yourself out there? How do you get work that is interesting for yourself? So I'm going to talk primarily first as the experience of what I do and when I go out to look for artists, and how I find people to build my art teams for my clients. So one thing that we do is we are constantly online. We're always on Skype, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on DeviantArt, not so much. We're on ArtStation, and we are looking at portfolios constantly. So one thing that's very important about portfolios is that you always remain up to date. I don't really want to see stuff that's from your secondary school O-level art program. I want to see what excites you. I want to see progression in your art. So that's that's one of the most important things about a portfolio, is being up to date and being relevant. If I go to a portfolio website and 2 years later I look at it and it's the same images, it kind of signals to me that, hey, you're not really doing much. But then again, hey, you could have been working 2 years under NDA and have nothing to show for it. But that's something else. From the angle of freelance and outsourcing, what do you do when you have an opportunity to work with an outsourced studio like myself or other companies or other people who just, hey, I've got a commission for you? Some key assets that I think are going to be very key and important to adapt to learn is being very open. I know a lot of artists are kind of shy sometimes, or you just have a little bit more trouble in communicating. It's a good thing that a lot of this is over email. A lot of this is, kind of impersonal because we only talk to you when we need to. But the most important parts about that are, understanding your client's needs, asking questions and being interested in the work that you do. And of course, don't make assumptions, things like that. That's just bread and butter being a good professional. From a different angle, if you're an in-house artist, you're going to be faced with different constraints. You're going to be working with art directors and seniors above you who may or may not have the same artistic drive as you. But at the end of the day, you're still part of a team, and communication is also key there. You got to learn from your leads, and you got to find out how each studio works. Wow, I'm actually blasting through my notes very quickly. So things that were mentioned earlier in the other talks were things like career progression. I think for artists, career progression is it's a lifelong goal. You never start at the top, but you're never always at the bottom as well. I'd say for a lot of people in the art industry that I've worked with, are constantly learning. I have worked with artists and art directors who are in their 40s and their 50s, and some who have worked much longer than I have in the industry, and they're just as hungry as the 21-year-old guy or girl who just graduated, and they're so willing to learn, and they're so willing to share their depth of experience. So art being subjective and being so easy to go, hey, that's not great, or hey, that's awesome. But the goal of an artist is to build and do stuff and to create stories and tell and convey emotions and appeal. So if you can encapsulate that into your art, you've got a great start point. What about 5 years down the road? Do you want to be an art director? Something that I've trained in the past, I've trained art directors in the past, is that being an art director isn't just about good art. Well, you have to develop the eye, of course. You have to develop the skills at curating art. You have to develop the skills at guiding artists into using their skill sets. But it's also about a huge portion of it is about people skills, because you're going to be working with clients, you're going to be working with schedules and management and budgets and all things like that. So if you want to be an art director, there are avenues and like the other panelists have said before, look for a mentor, follow someone and go from there. So another thing that I've experience in my time as an outsourcing producer is if you're familiar with the term Renaissance man, and we're talking about the master himself, Leonardo da Vinci. He was an inventor, he was a scientist, he was an artist, and he knew a lot about everything. He knew a lot about culture, he knew a lot about politics, he knew a lot about art and science. As an artist, you best serve the industry when you are not a one-trick pony, that you are able to absorb everything around you and put it into your art. If you ground yourself and your work and your expectations in reality, and at the same time challenge yourself into building from that platform, you're going to go a long way. You're going to have a valid and valuable input to the industry. If you are an artist who's also thinking about becoming a project manager or producer, the same skills apply. And if you are thinking of coming down my road and becoming a producer, having the mindset of an artist means you have the great benefit of having empathy and sympathy and the people skills to understand what an artist goes through in terms of, you know, the struggles. Sometimes you have that creative block, and some days you're just not productive. As a PM or producer with that kind of empathy, a lot of people will fall in love with you, and they're going to work their ass off for you. That's for sure. At the end of the day, in terms of career progression, you know, things like being a generalist or being a specialist, it's not a decision you need to make now. Right now, at this point, when you're starting out, do everything. Work for AAA, work for indie, work for mobile. Go work off commissions on Twitter. Go join art jams, game jams. Work independently. Work in your own games. Heck, try everything just so that you can get that breadth and depth of experience, and that you can bring that back to the industry and share it with your peers. In a couple of years' time, you guys will be seniors. You know, and with that depth, you will obviously be an asset to your company or an asset to your team, or if you're running a team, you'll be someone who's going to be looked at with vision and with, you know, that kind of, wow, when people look at you, they go, wow, hey, wow, this guy's done a lot of things. Wow, we should listen to him and learn from him. But take your time. You don't have to rush through it right now. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for you to grow. There's going to be many opportunities for you to stumble as well. And each of those steps need to be really taken into concern. I know it's a very vague and kind of rambling on a little bit, but I do want to bring it back into a bit of a reality and right now talk about the gig economy and why sometimes being an artist is a lot easier than being a developer. Is that the gig economy has allowed artists to work anywhere, anytime, anyhow. You know, with the current world situation with COVID-19 and the uncertainty of the industry because of, you know, because of movements like Black Lives Matter, you know, movements like the LGBT agenda, all these things affect us as creatives in an industry, which is number one, people first, where we are the people in the industry and we are the people who are creating these stories. At the same time, there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of hesitance into stepping into uncertain ground. I think personally for me, if you don't make that step, you're always going to be left behind. Take the opportunities and well, manage your risk is what I'm trying to say. Right now, like the whole situation is no one's taking world tours because we can't travel. No one's going on like long holidays to Bali. I wish I was there. No one's traveling and doing road trips anywhere because we can't. But I'm pretty sure that people are buying Switches, consoles, staying home, spending time with their families, playing games, playing board games, and just going at it at a slower pace and living their life in a, well, not reduced, in a more condensed, more internal way. And that's great for artists because that means that we need to provide content and we need to provide art for this. And you know what? I always tell people that art is kind of recession proof. There's always going to be jobs, there's always going to be opportunities, but you have to look for them and you have to be really aggressive sometimes. That's where your portfolio comes in. So I mentioned it a little bit earlier about how your portfolio needs to be constantly updated. It has to showcase, that you're an active artist participating in improving not just yourself, but improving the industry. Use that. I mean, we're all part of some level of social media, whether it's a Facebook group or whether it's on Reddit or or whether it's on Discord or whether it's on the SGGA Discord for that matter. The community is something that is very vibrant, and we should totally be taking advantage of it in a good way, not in a parasitic way. There are your peers who have gone before you, your senpais who have forged ahead, and these guys are learning shit and learning stuff on a daily basis. And trust me, I'm pretty sure they want to share it with you, their experience. Go out and create your own art groups and art jams. Well, not right now, do it online, but create those communities within communities that support each other. If you know that, hey, so and so is hiring and they're looking for a UI UX designer, spread it, share it, and that's one of the ways that we can encourage our own local industry to continue growing and to continue improving. We can't always rely on external forces. We have to forge ahead on our own, develop our own brand, develop our own Singapore identity in games, in art. I compare it to music sometimes. So like, a lot of times we're always listening to music that comes from overseas, whether it's American, or it's Korean or Japanese. If you listen to the radio, it's probably about 90% foreign. What happened to our own local voices? What happened to that brand? Supporting local is great, but we also have to support each other in pushing the levels higher and making sure that we're creating better and better products each time. So when you do your portfolios, you have to present yourself in that same level of excellence. If you want to be AAA, top notch, I want to be at this level. I want to be the next Sid Mead. I want to be the next Mobius. Big names, right? I think in 10, 20 years, that's where we're going to be. That's where we're going to be. Singapore, as Singaporean artists, we have already seen some of our guys go out, work at Volta, go out to Ubisoft, and not just in Singapore, but in France, in Montreal. We're all over the world right now putting a stamp for the industry. And I think that this upcoming generation needs to keep perpetuating that. We need to be building our brand and making sure that we are representing Singapore in the best way possible. So what does that mean for us who are just starting out and we're trying to find a job and we're working from home? Working from home is the best thing for artists right now. You have the comfort of staying at home, working in your underwear if you want to, and all you have to do is put on a nice t-shirt and sometimes pop up on video. But yeah, I mean, you're always going to be in a position to work between the lines, or sometimes if you want to, you can be up front and go, hey, I'm an artist, I can do this for you. So when you work from home, there are a couple of important things that you need to take care of as a professional. Number one, back up your stuff. Have redundancies like crazy. Thumb drives, external hard drives, network attached storage. Hardware failure is real. You don't want to be recreating a 78-layered Photoshop file or recreating your FBX all from scratch just because you forgot to back it up onto a server. So that's one very important thing. The next thing, make sure you have backup systems for your software and your tools. Recently, I outsourced a project and the artist said, I can't work for you. I can't go out to buy a mouse that I need to work for my art because my city is locked down. I tried ordering on Amazon and it's going to take 3 weeks. So if you're a freelancer and if you're working from home, even for a company, that disability, that stumbling block of not having the right tools at the right time is going to hurt. It's going to suffer, and I'm pretty sure your bosses won't be very happy if that happens. So you have to put yourself forward and think about these contingencies and making sure that you're not getting yourself screwed over by not having things ready. And at the same time, because we're all working from home right now, pay very close attention to security. So I'm not talking about people coming into your house and stealing your computer. Well, maybe I am, but I'm talking about data security as well. You know, a lot of us like to work and have chat windows open, have video calls with our friends while we work. Please be very careful that sometimes the non-disclosure agreements and the contracts you sign prohibit you from doing that. You know, we're talking about working on stuff that no one's seen, and people aren't going to see this stuff in 2-3 years, especially with AAA, right? We don't want to get into that kind of situation where we're forced to push people away because you're not paying attention to security and you're not being sensitive to the IP concerns and the IP protection that is in place. So that's kind of doom and gloom. Working from home and working through the pandemic and through the gig economy is very exciting. It's very fun. You get to pick and choose your projects. And one of the best parts is you have so much fun doing it. I have so much fun working with artists, even if I don't do the art. So that's in a nutshell one of the best parts of working with artists right now. Finally, I think my last point right now is for artists is to stay relevant to the industry. The art industry has moved and shifted so quickly in the last 10, 15 years. We're doing stuff that employs multi-disciplines. We're talking about 2D artists who work with 3D, who use 3D as a base, who then photo bash, and then, so many skill sets, and so many traditional techniques that are being bridged into the digital world. For artists, you guys, I really advise you, keep a beat on the movement of what the industry is doing. Look at art books, go out and buy art books. Look at what's being showcased on IGN or stuff on YouTube, because that's where the industry is moving. That's where the games are going. And if you want to have a long career in this, you want to be there. And learning these new techniques and making you more efficient and making you better at certain things is one of the key things that you need to be constantly progressing on. But at the same time, artists, always reinforce your fundamentals, your color theory, your perspective, your anatomy. Please have those at the back of your hand. When you can, if you know you're not good at it, photo reference. Put up a picture on one side, do your referencing, and make sure that I don't see weird hand poses that are great in Aliens, but not so great when we're doing Game of Thrones. So yeah, the best part is don't work in isolation. Rely on community, rely on your peers. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it from me. And I think I'm open to questions now.
Thanks so much, Stephen. It's super inspiring talk. Really, really useful, especially your shout out to community and like what's needed in the portfolio. We have quite a few questions, but unfortunately, I think we are short on time. Like it's 11:01 now, so sorry about that. I can read them out so you can have a think about it, and then I will paste it to you in the chat later on. So yeah, the first one is Mary Ann has a special request. Ask Stephen to show his cats on the recording upload later. Okay, so the second one from Nicole is as technology. Ooh, hello cat.
This is Kira.
Nicole asks, as technology advances, will AI take away this artistic role in the industry? The third question is, from YY actually, all these questions, what are the common problems faced when dealing with new hires for artists? At Volta, what is the culture like? How's the working dynamic between art directors and artists, especially since it's an outsourcing studio? Would outsourcing studios entertain internships and training new artists, given the nature of work is remote and varies in profile? And what is your opinion of education in the art industry? So unfortunately, we don't have time, but Stephen, I'll be pasting these questions to you.
Cool.
So you can answer it.
I'm gonna jump into the Discord, so if anyone wants to
Yeah, very
talk to me
cool.
there, yeah.
Yes.
So I'd like to thank you guys for the opportunity and sharing. I know I was rambling a little bit, but
No
hopefully
worries.
I've given a little bit of insight to the industry.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you guys for the time.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.